Hey guys, tonight we begin a journey into a world that seems wrapped in gold and glory, but hides something far heavier beneath. You're not just any ruler, you're a pharaoh, the divine image of Horus on earth, crowned by gods, wrapped in incense and adoration. The temples bear your name, the walls sing your victories. Every carving, every statue, every chant whispers of your eternal greatness. But it's barely sunrise and you're already drowning. Your linen sheets so finely woven they could whisper cling to your damp skin. The room smells of jasmine and of stone. Old stone, cold stone. A palace built for eternity, yet always pressing in. Servants murmur behind carved pillars, their footsteps soft but their whispers sharp. The high priest is already requesting another temple, this one taller, grander, more costly. Your general eyes heavy with sleepless ambition demands more grain. For troops, for a campaign you never planned, for a border you didn't even know was under threat. Your vizier bows so low it becomes uncomfortable. And then, he lingers, still bent, as if he's waiting for something, or hiding something. You are not alone in this chamber. The statues of your ancestors lined up like silent judges loom in the dimness. Carved from obsidian and granite, their eyes do not blink, but they seem to stare straight through your soul. They wore these same crowns, sat in this same throne room, and many of them, perhaps too many, died behind these walls, alone, suffocating beneath silence and secrets. You sit up slowly, swing your legs over the edge of the bed. The alabaster floor is cool beneath your bare feet, and before even the first ray of sunlight breaks through the towering columns outside, the full weight of Egypt rests upon your shoulders. But really, what does weight even mean? When your ceremonial collar weighs more than a basket of pomegranates, your spine aches already. Not from battle, no, but from the daily burden of gold. The golden mask, stiff and smiling. The braided wig, pulled tight. The linen robes hand-beaded. Beautiful but scratchy and stiff, declare your holiness. They don't breathe, neither can you. Outside, the morning chant rises like mist over the Nile. Temple singers call your name. Their voices drift across courtyards, across gardens, across halls. They sing praises you didn't write, hymns you never approved, lyrics you're not even allowed to question. You rise anyway, because pharaohs don't get sick days. You pass a mirror-polished obsidian framed in gleaming lapis. You pause, that face, too tired, too pale, too lined with worry. But wait, you're 16. Right. They started calling you Mighty Bull before your voice had deepened. They wrapped you in lion skins while your arms still trembled holding a javelin. You've never eaten alone, never slept alone, never cried alone. There is always someone watching, a scribe, a eunuch, a priest, a tutor, a whisperer, a spy. Even your dreams aren't truly yours. Last night you dreamed of drowning, trapped inside a golden sarcophagus, your name mispronounced, your heart plucked from your chest, weighed and found wanting. You wake gasping, but the nightmare doesn't end. It just changes rooms. This morning the first to arrive is your embalmer. Yes, the embalmer. He smiles, gently speaks softly. He always does. He says he's here to get familiar with your frame, to plan ahead, to ensure your nose will hold its shape, that your organs will be properly dried, that your face will still look like you. He speaks of natron and myrrh, of your liver, of which herbs flatter your scent. You nod. Because what else can you do? He's your cousin. He's close to the high priest. He means well, probably. But you can't say it aloud. I'm not dead yet. Down the hallway, eunuchs scatter perfume. Every step you take smells like lily sandalwood and power. And yet it's not your scent. You don't own it. You are it. You are the perfume. Breakfast waits on a golden tray, crushed dates, soft bread soaked in honey, thick creamy goat's milk. You chew carefully. The taster watches your lips. His hands tremble. You wonder, was he here last week? Will he be here next week? Is he nervous because of poison or politics? You eat anyway, because this is your palace, your tomb, your cage. The floor's polished limestone reflect your movements, but they echo too loudly. You try to walk like a god, but your sandals squeak. 2 guards flank your path. Both are silent, both are tall. One has a scar tucked just behind his right ear. You stare for a moment. Did he serve your father? Was he there? That night, historians still argue whether your father died of fever, or spear, or whispered betrayal. There were no witnesses, just a sudden stillness, and a rushed embalming. You enter the throne room. It is colder than you remember. Shadows gather in corners, long quiet, watching. The dais shines ivory gold obsidian, not with beauty, but with threat. It does not sparkle, it glares, like a warning. You ascend. Sit. The throne creaks beneath you. It shouldn't. You're supposed to be a god. Gods don't creak. The room fills slowly. Courtiers, priests, generals. Each one bows, each one smiles, each one waits. They bring gifts and burdens. One offers a monkey from Kush, another an urgent scroll. Omens, astrological chaos, written by a man who hasn't been seen since last week. A third speaks of rebellion upriver, small but symbolic. He recommends fire. You nod. But truly, it doesn't matter. They've already decided. They'll burn whatever they want. Your name is just the seal. Mid-morning now. Your head aches beneath the ceremonial crown, an intricate jungle of symbolism and solid metal. Your neck strains. You whisper for relief. A handmaiden appears, lifts you gently. You nearly stumble, not from sickness, just too much gold. They guide you to the inner shrine. You kneel before your own statue, polished basalt, calm, smiling, hands folded just so. You're expected to pray to yourself. Outside, a breeze flutters the sycamore leaves. You hear something soft. Laughter, children maybe. It's been so long since you laughed. You don't quite remember what it sounds like. They say the gods chose you, that you were born for this, but you didn't choose it. You never asked to become a deity. With foot blisters and prescribed dreams, you never wanted any of this. You just wanted a moment of silence, a walk by the riverbank, a mango peeled with your own fingers, a swim in the Nile beneath the moon. But instead, you study grain quotas, visit tomb architects, memorize chants to protect your soul from crocodile-headed demons, because gods don't rest, even in death, especially not in death. And tonight, when the palace grows still, and the columns cast long cold shadows across the sleeping stone, when the only sound is the slow lap of water against the edge of the courtyard, you'll return to your golden bed. You'll lie beneath a ceiling painted with stars and gods and Ra's eternal voyage across the heavens, and you'll wonder with the scent of lilies in your hair, the taste of ash on your tongue, and the weight of crowns still pressing into your dreams. You'll wonder is being a god worth all this? You were born into this role, but it didn't matter, not really, because they started grooming you before your baby teeth were done falling out, before your handwriting steadied, before you knew what power meant. And one day, someone simply said, "The gods have chosen. Long live the king." Just like that, without asking, without waiting. You're a child on the throne, too small for the sandals of the man before you, too young to fully grasp what divine right even means, but old enough to know that one wrong word could cost someone their tongue, or yours. The throne itself is a monster, hard, wide, unforgiving, built for intimidation, not comfort. You sit with both feet dangling like a guest at a banquet. They've stacked cushions beneath you, but it only makes you look smaller, more fragile. Your crown wobbles, your hands sweat, but no one is allowed to notice. Not the priests, not the guards, not even your mother. Today she sits just to the right, robed in white linen, her face calm, composed, unreadable. She smiles occasionally, but only with her mouth, never her eyes. She reminds everyone gently that she is regent, that your voice still needs her whisper behind it. She holds the seal. You hold the illusion. They dress you in stiff fabrics, heavy necklaces, gold bracelets too large for your wrists. The servants had to tie your royal kilt 3 times this morning. It kept slipping. Your waist is still too small for kingship. But when you walk into the court, everyone chants your name as if thunder has entered the room. And for a moment, a single flickering second, you almost believe it. Almost. The general of the south kneels before you. His armor clinks like a threat. Sharp, precise. He has seen more battles than you've seen harvests. He carries a scar across his cheek, long healed, but still glowing faintly beneath the torchlight. You try to sit taller, to still your breathing, to become the god they claim you are. You repeat the phrase you practiced all morning. We honor your service, defender of the borders. The court murmurs approval. The general lowers his head, but he does not smile. He's testing you. They all are. Your tutor, a wiry man with ink-stained fingers, whispers a reminder. Speak slowly. Enunciate the sacred names properly. You mispronounce one anyway. A minor goddess of fertility. Small in the pantheon, but large enough to offend. Nobody corrects you. But a priest coughs in the background. It sounds like dust, but feels like judgment. Later, in your private garden, you replay the morning like a board game. Each word, each glance, each pause, you moved one piece wrong. Granted too much grain to a province already fat with harvest. The vizier noticed. He'll remember. There are no toys anymore. No carved hippos, no spinning tops, no little wooden soldiers, just tablets, scrolls, ledgers, prayers. You spend hours pretending to read. But really, you're just looking at the drawings in the margins. A man with a falcon's head, a boat sailing through the stars, a lion with the tail of a scorpion. Your dreams are more vivid than your waking hours. In them you're flying, you're laughing, you're nobody, just a child, weightless, free. But when you open your eyes, stone walls, incense smoke, the rustle of silk robes in corridors, it is always back to the throne, back to the wait. One day you're told you must marry. You are 9, she is 7. Your sister, she smells like lotus petals and old books. You're told she's beautiful. You nod politely. She tells you your crown is crooked. They call it divine union, like Isis and Osiris, heavenly, sacred, eternal. But you're just 2 children, being pushed toward each other by adults who already decided what the family tree should look like. A circle, not a line. You ask her if she wants to play with a wooden lion you once liked. She says no. She wants to see the embalming chamber. You think that's probably a warning. At night you eat alone. Not because you're lonely, though you are, but because every meal must be sanctified, tasted, recorded. Even your figs are political. You start to recognize the looks in your servant's eyes. Pity, fear, sometimes affection, but mostly a kind of reverent distance. As if you are not a boy, as if you're already a statue, cold, still, immortal. You overhear your nurses whispering behind a curtain. They think you're fragile. They worry about your thin arms, your cough, the way you squint in the sun. One of them says quietly, "He looks like the last one." They go silent after that. You pretend to be asleep. Historians still argue whether some pharaohs were truly powerful as children, or merely puppets. Some believe the priesthood held the real power, until puberty, or death, whichever came first. You begin to understand this not through books, but through moments, through smiles that don't reach eyes, through decisions made without your voice, then read aloud as if you'd made them, through gifts sent to your beloved wife that you didn't pick, through laws signed in your name. Before you could read them, you start rehearsing everything, every smile, every blink, every gesture. You learn how to tilt your head just so, when the scribe sketches you. You practice walking with a staff, not because you need it, but because it makes you look older, more divine. You learn to speak last in meetings. It makes your words feel heavier, more godlike. Your sister wife visits occasionally. She likes cats. You give her one. It scratches her. She says you're cursed. You smile anyway. Your cousins visit. One of them is taller than you. He makes jokes in the training yard. He is not afraid of you. You make a note to keep him close, or far, depending. This is your life now. A life where your enemies are relatives, your friends are too scared to speak, and your only freedom is in your dreams. Those brief moments before dawn, when the palace is still, when even the gods seem to sleep, when the golden walls fade, the incense fades, the whispers fade, and you remember that once, before the throne, before the chants, before the wait, you were just a boy. You walk the palace with light steps, but your thoughts drag like stone. Because even as a child pharaoh, one thing becomes clear. This golden cage is full of eyes, and not all of them blink. The walls have ears, but worse, so do the columns, the statues, even the flower pots. You don't speak carelessly anymore. You don't even breathe carelessly, because here in the palace of lotus blossoms and linen drapery, everyone is listening. Welcome to the palace of paranoia. This morning you pass a priest of Thoth, his fingers stained blue with ink, his tongue forked with double meanings. He bows low, compliments your sandals, mentions a prophecy about falcons. You nod politely, but later in your chamber you whisper to your scribe, am I the falcon or the prey? There are no straight answers here, only riddles, wrapped in compliments, dipped in honey, served on silver trays. Behind every smile is a favor. Behind every favor, a trap. Your cousin, the one with a lazy eye, offers you a game of sonnet. You win. 3 times. The next morning, he accidentally spills wine on a treaty scroll. Now the priesthood whispers about omens, bad ones, linked to you. You begin to learn the rhythms, how power is passed in glances, how an eyebrow raised at the wrong time can sink a career or a body. Even the servants are careful. They clean your floors with silent hands. But sometimes, their eyes linger just a moment too long, and you wonder who sent them, your mother, the vizier, or someone you haven't even met yet. The palace itself is a maze, columns wide enough to hide 3 men, tapestries that flutter, even when the wind is still, hallways that lead nowhere unless you know the code. You begin taking different paths each day, just to see who follows. Sometimes someone always does. One afternoon, your personal guard Heka warns you not to drink the pomegranate juice. You ask why. He simply says it smells wrong. You nod, hand it to the taster. The taster sniffs, sips, and 2 days later, he's in a tomb, not yours, yet. Historians still argue whether assassination attempts were common, or just court gossip. But you don't argue with poison. You just stop drinking anything. You didn't watch being poured, which is almost everything. You develop rituals. You only sleep with your head facing east. You recite a spell under your breath. Before entering any new room, you always wear a lapis charm under your collar. Said to ward off betrayal, you don't believe it works, but belief is optional. Survival isn't. One night you hear footsteps in the servants' corridor. You rise quietly, press your ear to the stone wall. Whispers, faint, fast. You catch your name and the phrase before the flood season. By morning the whisperers are gone, reassigned, they say, to temple duties in Thebes or the afterlife. It's hard to know which. You once dreamed of becoming a wise king, one who built libraries, dug canals. Now you dream only of locked doors, and whether yours are truly locked. The high priest of Amun visits once a week. His robes shimmer like sun on the river. His perfume smells like crushed myrrh and ambition. He kneels too deeply, yet somehow always above you. You thank him for the latest prophecy. He smiles. You wonder if it's real. You wonder if he is. He reminds you of a crocodile. Still, smooth, capable. You remember once asking your mother, what happened to father's favorite advisor? She answered quietly. He forgot to whisper. You never asked again. You learned to smile, even when you're afraid. To praise, when you're suspicious. To nod, when you disagree. To bow, when you want to scream. The palace teaches you patience. It teaches you that nothing is ever said only once. Everything is repeated, echoed, carved in stone, and then forgotten. Except the lies. Those linger. There's a scribe named Menra. He records everything. Every decree, every blink, every breath that matters. You once caught him watching you during dinner. He smiled, then scratched something into his tablet. You've never been able to look at him the same way since. The library is guarded, not by soldiers, by silence. You may only read scrolls approved by the priesthood. They say it's for your purity. You think it's for your ignorance. But you're not ignorant, not anymore. You've started hiding questions inside your prayers. And sometimes, the gods whisper back, not always with answers, but with warnings. And in this palace, warnings are as good as gold. You keep a dagger hidden beneath your writing desk. A small one, obsidian, gifted by a Nubian merchant long ago. You never touch it, not really. You just look at it and remember that even kings need secrets, especially kings, because here in this beautiful, silent, golden place, someone is always watching and they are always waiting. You wake before the sun, not because you're rested, no, not really, but because today is sacred, and sacred days demand an early start. A servant unwraps your limbs from fine linen sheets. Another brushes fragrant oil through your hair. You are not allowed to touch your own skin today. Too holy, they say. Too divine. They dress you in the ceremonial cloak. Pure white linen, starched so stiff it crinkles like papyrus with every breath. Gold thread dances along its edges, so fine it nearly slices your fingers when you try to hold it steady. You don't move. You hold perfectly still as they crown you. Not with the war crown, not with the red one of the north or the white one of the south, but with both. The double crown, unified, powerful, heavy. You are not going to war today. You are going to speak with gods. The temple rises before you like a cliff carved from sunlight and shadow. Obelisks pierce the early haze. Lotus blossoms float motionless on sacred pools as if afraid to disturb the stillness. It is beautiful. It is terrifying. You cross the threshold barefoot. The cool stone kisses your feet with the hush of centuries. Incense thickens the air, sweet and bitter. You try not to cough. A king does not cough before the gods, and so begins the burden of the sacred. The high priest waits at the gate. He bows low, so low his beard brushes the dust. He says the gods are ready. He says they have already heard your thoughts. You wonder how often he claims to know your mind. You wonder how often he's right. They lead you deeper into the temple's dark heart, past columns painted with stars, past statues taller than fear, past walls that do not echo. Because even the echoes dare not interrupt the sacred. You are not allowed to speak, only to listen. They chant words so old, not even the priests understand them fully anymore. But understanding is not the point. Presence is. You offer gifts, gold dust in a painted bowl, papyrus scrolls wrapped in blue twine, honey cakes stacked in a golden dish, a carved ibis bird for the god of wisdom. You hope he notices. You hope anyone notices. Then you kneel before a golden shrine that does not blink but somehow watches. A priest places his hands upon your shoulders. Another steadies your head. A third leans in close and speaks directly into your ear. You are the tongue of Ma'at. You are the will of Ra. You are the spine of Osiris. You do not breathe. Not really. You simply exist. A vessel, a symbol, a crown balanced on shaking knees. Historians still argue, did the pharaohs truly believe they were gods? Or did they simply act well enough to convince everyone else? You wonder the same thing. The god statue looms in the dim chamber. Its eyes are carved of stone. Not real, but they see you all the same. And now, it is time to speak. Not your own thoughts. No, never those. You recite what was written for you. A hymn, a prayer, a promise. You promise to protect the two lands, to honor the Nile, to feed the temples, to strike down enemies, even those you cannot name. The priests nod. They anoint your forehead with oil. They press a scroll to your lips. You do not read it. You only kiss it. And that is enough. When the ceremony ends, you are allowed to sit, briefly, on a stone stool carved with jackals. Your back aches. You are sweating. Your pulse hums behind your eyes like bees. But you show nothing. Because gods don't sweat, even if they're only 12 years old. Back at the palace, your attendants flutter around you like anxious birds. You wave them off. You want silence, but silence is rare. So you slip away to your private shrine, a small chamber tucked behind a jasmine-covered wall. There, on a low stone shelf, sits a figurine of Bes, the dwarf god with a lion's grin. He makes you laugh. He always has. You sit cross-legged on the mat, look into his carved face, and whisper, "I'm not a god, Then louder, I'm not sure I want to be. The stone doesn't answer, but it doesn't look away either, which is more than you can say for most. At dinner, your mother asks about the ritual. You say it went well. She doesn't ask more, which means she already knows. Later that night, the vizier brings you scrolls, temple accounts, numbers and warnings wrapped in parchment. He says grain reserves are falling. He says the gods are watching. You say, then let them watch while I fix it. He smiles. That long unreadable smile he always uses when your words surprise him. He says spoken like a son of Ra. You're not sure if it's praise or a test. That night you dream of masks. One fits your face perfectly, the other burns. You wake with your throat dry and your jaw set firm, because if they insist that you are divine, if they build statues of you, carve your name in gold leaf and whisper it into every prayer, then maybe you can use that, not just to survive, but to rule. The sun hangs above the courtyard, like a polished disc of hammered gold. Your sandals scuff faintly, whispers against the hot limestone floor. Around you, the palace hums with motion, scribes hurrying with scrolls, soldiers polishing bronze, servants carrying baskets of figs of dates of salted fish. But in this moment, it's not the crowd that holds your attention. It's the silence between each step, the stillness that waits between motions. Because today, you preside over something older than law, older than words. Today, you stand at the heart of balance. Today, you sit on the throne of Ma'at. They call it the Court of Shadows. You don't remember the first time someone begged for their life before you. Maybe it was a servant, a trembling child who dropped a clay cup, or a priest who let his tongue wander too far into forbidden truths. Or maybe it was someone closer, an uncle chained, crying, still wearing the perfume of family as he pleaded for mercy. They all blend together after a while, because tears, they tend to look the same. But justice, they say, must be seen, even if it's only a performance, even if the stage is carved from stone and the actors wear real blood. You ascend the judgment seat, stone, unyielding, carved with feather scales and eyes that never blink. To your left, the high priest of Ma'at. His silence smells of incense and hidden truths. To your right, the vizier, always watching, always waiting. Behind you, a painted wall shows Horus spearing crocodiles, symbolism so heavy it threatens to tilt the whole room sideways. Before you, the accused kneels, a merchant, greedy fingers, empty granaries. The scribe recites the charges in a tone so flat it reminds you of the river in drought, cracked, tired, and dangerous. The merchant weeps. He blames famine, he blames mice, he blames jealous neighbors. You glance at the vizier. He shrugs, which means guilty. But in this chamber, your silence carries more weight than his gestures ever could. You lean forward slowly, your earrings sway gold, catching light like trapped fireflies. And you ask, is it mercy you ask? The merchant nods so hard, you're afraid his neck will snap. You wait. Let the silence stretch. Let the room breathe in your power. Then let the gods judge him in the fields, which everyone knows is a sentence of exile, not death, but close. Two guards come forward, take him by the arms. He doesn't resist. He doesn't look back. And for a flicker of a moment, you wonder, was that justice or just politics wearing the mask of righteousness? You wonder if anyone truly cares about right anymore, or if everyone's just memorizing their lines. Historians still argue, did pharaohs truly command the courts, or were they divine rubber stamps, pressed gently onto parchment, already written by others? You feel like both, stamp and paper, voice and echo, divine mask and frightened face. Later they bring in a mother. She bows low, her hands tremble. Behind her, a small boy, maybe 6. He stole a loaf of bread, that's all. Your jaw tightens. The priest demands discipline. Your vizier suggests lashes, something visible, something painful. But you look at the boy, barefoot, bones sharp under his skin, eyes like dried wells, too deep, too quiet, too old. You look at him, and you see your people, the ones behind the palace walls, the ones with empty bowls, the ones no festival parade ever reaches. You raise your hand and say, let the boy serve in the temple kitchens. Let him eat. Let him learn. Gasps ripple through the chamber. But no one dares to object. You have just overruled tradition and earned a few more enemies in gold-threaded robes. Still, you breathe easier. Justice. Your learning is a weapon, but like all weapons, it can backfire. The next case is stranger. A noble accuses his wife of witchcraft. He says she makes his dogs bark at shadows. He says she whispers strange things in her sleep. You try not to smile. The woman stands tall, chin lifted, eyes sharp. She wears lapis and linen as if they were armor. I serve Hathor, she says. I summon music, not demons. Her voice is steady. You admire that. In this place, steadiness is rare, but you also sense the tension, the kind that cracks bones long before it breaks silence. You ask, do you swear truth by Mat's feather? She nods, once, unblinking. You turn to the noble. He stutters. He sweats. You make no ruling. Instead, you command both husband and wife to donate twice their household grain to the temple. An offering for clarity. They leave in silence, which in a room like this feels like a small miracle. Not all verdicts are final. Not all guilt is clear. Sometimes judgment is not about putting out the fire, but keeping it from spreading. Later, you walk the Hall of Records. Their stone tablets whisper from their walls. Some date back centuries. Names long erased, but stories carved in permanence. Your fingers trace grooves. A tablet records how Pharaoh Khafra buried a priest alive. Another tells how a thief was made a tax collector. You shake your head. History, it seems, has always had a strange sense of humor. Then you see it. A tablet written in red ink. Rare. Urgent. It tells of a boy accused of poisoning his tutor. But the judgment is missing. The tablet ends mid-sentence. Ominous. Mysterious. You look around. No one watching. You slip the tablet into your sleeve. That night, by the flickering glow of a clay lamp, you study it again. You wonder, was the boy guilty or simply terrified? You think of yourself, of the tutors who raised you, the ones who used both sticks and smiles, words and wounds. You think of how easily fear can wear the face of guilt, and how power can so easily misunderstand both. A soft sound. A cat brushes past your ankle. You startle and the tablet slips. It falls to the floor, but it doesn't break. You exhale, a good omen perhaps, or just a quiet reminder that sometimes judgment doesn't have to shatter. Sometimes it can land gently. If you're lucky, you rise before dawn. Again, the sky is still bruised with night, and the first calls of the ibis haven't yet begun. Because today is not a court day. It is not a festival. It is not a day of rituals or grand processions or whispered judgments carried out behind curtains. No, today is census day, and if that sounds boring, well, it is. Painfully so, mind-numbingly so, but also one of the most dangerous days of the year, because what gets counted can get questioned, and what gets questioned can disappear. You sit beneath a wide linen canopy, shade filtering the early light, the air heavy with stillness. A breeze stirs, but it only trembles the fabric, it does not cool. Before you, a row of scribes kneels on reed mats. Their pen-slender reeds dip again and again into bowls of ink made from soot and crushed berries. Scrolls pile up beside them, like bricks waiting to build something you're not sure you want. Each scroll carries names, numbers, land plots, livestock, births, deaths, taxes owed, taxes unpaid. You are Pharaoh, the living Horus, child of the sun, keeper of balance. But today, you are essentially a glorified accountant. They bring you the reports one by one. The Nile Delta first, then Upper Egypt, then the borderlands near Nubia, where the numbers always arrive last, and are always suspiciously round. You try not to yawn. The vizier reads aloud, 77 goats missing from the eastern pastures, 3 granaries reporting signs of rot, 200 men conscripted, but only 160 accounted for. You pause, your fingers still on the scroll. Where are the rest, you ask? The vizier doesn't blink. Possibly dead, possibly hiding, possibly fictional. You narrow your eyes. Send word to the southern inspector, you say, quietly, because here's the truth. Even as Pharaoh, You don't know everything, not even close. Historians will one day argue, did pharaohs micromanage their kingdoms, or did they merely nod at the scripts written for them? But from where you sit now, the answer is obvious. Information is power. And disinformation is even more profitable. You flip through the grain tallies. They claim a good harvest. They claim full silos. They claim blessings. But you've walked through the alleys of Memphis. You've seen the bread lines, the mothers boiling weeds and calling it stew. You slam the scroll shut. Get me the temple records, you say. The priests won't like it. They claim divine accounting. They say the gods keep the books. But you've learned something else. Gods don't eat. People do. The temple records arrive. Hours later, they are rolled in perfumed parchment, stamped with sigils, decorated with color, and completely different. They claim twice the grain, twice the silver, twice the sheep. Fascinating. So you send your most trusted messenger, an old man with no hunger for power and knees too stiff to run. He'll travel slow. He'll go unnoticed. He'll ask the farmers directly. You trust him more than you trust the priests, which says a lot. In the meantime, you examine the labor rosters. One village sent its full quota. Another sent half. A third sent none, but somehow donated a golden necklace to the temple just last week. You rub your temples. The headache begins. A slow throb, like war drums muffled by parchment. You take a break. Step into your private garden. The air smells of lotus blossom. Cool stone rests beneath your bare feet. You watch two birds fighting over breadcrumbs at the edge of the fountain, and it hits you. This is the real war. Not swords, not gods, not poison in chalices or daggers in shadows, but numbers and names and scrolls that lie. How do you rule a kingdom when every record speaks in riddles? You remember something your tutor once told you late at night when your eyes could barely stay open. The pen, he whispered, cuts deeper than the blade. At the time you laughed. You thought it was poetic nonsense. But now you wonder if it was a warning or a threat. The afternoon brings more disputes. A farmer swears his ox was stolen, not sold as the record claims. A noble accuses the scribes of inflating his vineyard's yield, making him owe twice the tax. A widow falls to her knees. Tears streak her cheeks. Her sons, she says, are listed as laborers, but she hasn't seen them in 2 years. You promise to look into it. You add her name to your private list, and you mean it. But you also know that list is growing too long. Later, you meet with the chief architect. He needs more labor to start a new canal project. From where you ask, he shrugs. Wherever your numbers say we can. You want to laugh. Instead, you sigh. Because here is another truth. Every time you move labor, you move lives. And lives do not balance on scrolls. They break, they bend, they bleed. You retreat to your study as the sun bleeds its last colors across the horizon. The census reports still wait for you. But beside the tall stack, you notice something small. A reed basket, inside bread, cheese, 2 dates, and a folded note clumsily tied with twine. You untuck it and read for Pharaoh from the census boy. Thank you for asking about my mother. You pause, then smile. The first real smile all day. Because amid the false numbers, the whispered lies, the weight of empire, there is still something small, something real. A boy, a gesture, a mother's name remembered. You take 1 date, eat it slowly, thoughtfully, and you whisper to the basket, we'll fix this, someday. Even gods need hope. Even pharaohs need reminders. And maybe, just maybe, the smallest truths are the ones that keep your heart from turning to stone. You know it's going to be a difficult day. When the guards enter your chamber without knocking, they bow low, too low, their foreheads nearly touch the floor. Their silence says more than words ever could. And then finally one of them speaks. Just one word, Kadesh. The name hangs in the air like incense. Thick, sweet, suffocating. You don't answer. You don't need to. Because that word alone is a storm. You rise, slowly, deliberately. There are no prayers this morning, no music, no idle chatter. Your armor is already laid out, gleaming, gold reflecting the rising sun in cruel perfect angles. But you're not wearing it for war. Not today. This is not about spears, or shields, or the sound of hooves on dry earth. No, Today you wear armor for another kind of battle, the kind fought with stone and ink and memory, because today, Pharaoh, you must rewrite history. Kadesh, was it a disaster? Was it a miracle? Or was it something in between? A dream blurred by the dust of 1,000 hooves, historians still argue. Some say you triumphed, some say you barely escaped, some say no one truly won. But today it doesn't matter what they say, because today, you must not debate, you must declare. You step into the hall of records, stone walls rise around you, cool and ancient, painted with scenes of glory, lions falling beneath your ancestors' spears, enemies crushed under golden sandals, tribute poured out like rivers of wine. Every inch of wall is covered in victories. Every inch, except one. One long blank panel of smooth limestone. Waiting, watching, your wall. The core artist approaches. His hands tremble around a charcoal stick. He bows low, his voice barely above a whisper. Majesty, what shall we paint? And here it is, the moment. The moment where memory ends and myth begins. You close your eyes and you remember the battlefield, the blinding sun, the taste of grit between your teeth, your men gone, scattered, your heart pounding as horses pulled your chariot into chaos. You prayed, not for victory, not even for honor, just to live, just to make it home. But that's not what you'll say. You open your eyes, straighten your back, and speak calm, clear. Show me, leading the charge, my bow drawn, my enemies fleeing before me, the gods above watching proudly. The artist does not flinch, he nods and begins to draw. By noon the carving has started. The first scene shows you flanked by falcons, chariot wheels bursting into flame. The second your enemies kneel, hands raised, faces turned away in terror. The third, a treaty, etched in gold. The two great kings shaking hands beneath the gaze of the gods. You approve each one, you nod at every panel, even though you know the battle was a draw, even though the Hittites would carve a very different version. But this story, this version, will last 1,000 years, and that you tell yourself is what matters. Still, as the chisel strikes stone, a quiet thought returns. What happens if someday someone digs up both stories? You shake your head. Not today. That is tomorrow's problem. Later, you dictate the official poem. It begins, none stood before the wrath of Pharaoh, and ends, peace was given to the earth by his hand. It will be copied into every temple, chanted at every festival, sung by priests, their voices echoing in colonnades long after you are dust. Not a word of it is false because none of it is meant to be truth. It is not about lies. It is about legacy. Even your generals grizzled scarred and far too proud to flatter, even they nod, because they too remember the terror. And they too would rather remember the carving. There's a strange footnote here, one that makes you smile. The treaty you signed with the Hittites, that bronze handshake carved in stone, it will be remembered. In fact, it becomes one of the world's first recorded international treaties. And long after your bones have crumbled, a replica will sit in a place called the United Nations. So yes, Pharaoh, even your edits endured, but rewriting is exhausting, more than war. Your shoulders ache, your mouth tastes of dust again. You return to your chamber as the light fades into a soft orange hush. You lie down, not on silk, but on cool stone. Sometimes, you miss the stone. It does not flatter, it does not bend, it simply is, honest. A servant tiptoes in, he speaks softly. There's a poet at the gate, he wishes to praise you in verse. You groan. Another one, he nods. You sigh, deeply. Let him in. The poet enters bowing so low he nearly folds in half. He clears his throat trying to sound confident. Majesty, I composed a new line. The lion roars but Pharaoh does not flinch. You raise one brow. You sure the lion isn't me? The poet pales. Of course you are the lion. You are the storm, the sunrise. Do you wave him off? Enough. Leave the line. Take the gold. He stumbles out, overjoyed. You lie back again, and the poet's line echoes in your mind. The lion roars, but Pharaoh does not flinch. You chuckle, quietly, because once the lion did roar, and you did flinch, hard. But then, You stood up, you returned, you commanded, you survived. And maybe that is the truth worth remembering. You close your eyes and whisper into the stillness above. Let them tell the story. Let them sing the victories. But let me remember the dust, because victory is not always clean. It does not always shine in gold or carve easily into walls. Sometimes victory is waking up and choosing not to run. Sometimes survival itself is the greatest triumph of all. The sun hasn't risen yet, but already your skin glistens with sweat, not from heat, though yes, there's plenty of that, but from nerves, a kind of tension that wraps around your chest like linen bandages before burial. Because today is not about war, not about taxes, not even about divine decrees. Today is something stranger, quieter, but no less immense. Today, you meet with the architects, and nothing, absolutely nothing, eats money like stone. You take your place in the central planning hall, a space designed not for comfort, but to impress. Everything here whispers power. The columns are polished to a near-blinding sheen. The ceiling painted with stars and lotus flowers glows in the torchlight. And there, near the far wall, a tiny waterfall trickles down polished granite, just loud enough to remind everyone present that you control the Nile. The chief architect enters, arms full of scrolls, eyes wide with a kind of giddy excitement. He bows low as if gravity itself pulled him down in your presence. Majesty, he says, his voice trembling slightly with anticipation. I believe we have found the perfect site. You glance at the map spread across the obsidian table. A desert plateau, dry, elevated, a place where the stars shine clearly, where the wind speaks and the horizon stretches unbroken. Remote enough for privacy, but close enough for legend. You nod just once, and what will it cost? The architect coughs into his hand. A few thousand workers, several years, and quite a bit of granite. You don't speak. You don't need to. Granite means Aswan, which means quarrying. Barges, priests, scribes, donkeys, shelters, curses to protect the stone, and food. So much food. You rub your temples. Still, this is your tomb. Your name, your face, your memory will be carved into eternity. Historians may wonder later, how involved was Pharaoh in building his pyramid? Some say you designed every corridor, every chamber, every last angle and shadow. Others believe it was the priests and engineers who did the work, while you played at divinity. But today, you are very much involved. Today, your opinion is final. You approve the site, begin the foundation, you say, and the scribes begin to move like water. Lines are drawn, measurements taken, offerings made, dates recorded in ink and stone. The architect's face glows. There is one more thing, he says. He unrolls a scroll, and there, sketched in confident lines, is your statue. 3 times life-size, seated, regal, serene, lips curled, just enough to suggest that you know something no one else ever will. You tilt your head. My nose appears a bit larger than I remember. He bows quickly, clearly nervous. For dignity, Majesty, a sign of wisdom. You grin, then make the ears even larger. I wish to be remembered for my listening skills. The scribes snicker quietly into the sleeves of their robes. A rare moment of laughter, but precious. Construction begins within days. From a shaded platform, you watch as teams of men, bare-backed and sun-darkened, haul great blocks of limestone across wooden rollers. Their voices rise in unison, a steady rhythm matching the movement of their shoulders, their backs, their breath. Dust clouds the air. The sun hangs above, not like a star, but like a judgment. You feel it all, and you do not turn away. You ask for water stations to be placed along the lines. The overseers grumble, complain, say it slows the pace, but you insist. You are building your afterlife. You'd rather not curse your soul with the blood of thousands. Later the priests arrive, robes white as bone, eyes sharp with ritual. They bless the foundation, whisper invocations, bury sacred objects beneath the cornerstone, a scarab beetle, a strip of gold leaf, a miniature of your scepter. You say nothing. You simply watch. and try to imagine the final shape, what it will look like from the horizon, how it will cast its shadow across the endless sea of sand. One evening, you walk the site alone. The workers have gone. The tools are silent. Only the wind remains. It slides through half-built corridors and stacked stone like a spirit. You press your hand to one of the walls, still warm from the sun, still rough with tool marks, but alive. Somehow, it feels alive. Then from nowhere, a cat appears, silent as moonlight, tail twitching like a metronome of secrets. It rubs against your leg. You smile. "I hope you plan to stay," you whisper. "I'll need a guardian." It meows once, soft, almost amused, then vanishes into shadow. You tell no one, but the next morning you order a small shrine built near the entrance to Bastet, protector of the Pharaoh, keeper of secrets. Some say pharaohs built for glory, others say they built from fear. You build because silence is louder than any crown. You imagine yourself one day far beyond breath, your bones beneath stone, your name etched on every surface, and people pilgrims, wanderers walking past, and whispering he ruled, he built, he remembered us. That last part, it matters the most. A few weeks later, the architect returns, in his hands a scale model, your tomb miniaturized in ivory and cedar. He sets it down with reverence. "We've added a secret passage," he says. You raise an eyebrow. For what purpose? He leans in grinning, like a boy with a mischief too good to keep. "In case you ever wish to visit the living." You laugh, a real laugh, one that shakes the dust off your heart. Well, then you say, "Make sure it leads to the kitchen. Even gods get hungry." And for a moment, in this world of stone and sweat and silence, you feel strangely human. Today your sandals are filled with sand. Again, because once more you are riding into the desert, not as a warrior, not even as a ruler, but as a pilgrim. You don't do this often, not because you feel above it, no, but because when you vanish without a word, the court panics. They send runners, whispers start, eyes shift. Today you left anyway. You've brought just 3 guards, a priest, and an old guide with more teeth missing than remaining. The guide rides at the front, his spine curved like a question. He's leading you to a cave, a place wrapped in rumor, a crack in the earth where they say the veil between worlds thins. Some claim it holds visions, echoes of gods, even the wisdom of ancestors. You don't know what you'll find. But as the years gather in your bones, you've learned one thing. Power is loud, but truth is very quiet. The sun burns your shoulders, even through your linen cloak. The camels grunt. Flies circle your face, bold enough to bite a king. You laugh under your breath. Even Pharaoh cannot command the flies. The desert rolls on endlessly, and as you sway with the camel's gait, memories return. Old ones. You remember stories from childhood, tales told in whispers, desert sages who saw futures in mirages, scorpions that whispered prophecies, if you listened closely enough. Back then it sounded absurd. Now, it sounds like hope. Hours pass. The sky sharpens to blue glass. The rocks begin to shift in color, from yellow to orange, then to a deep blood-red hue. The guide stops. He raises one thin arm, points to a narrow crack in the cliff. He mutters, "This is it." You dismount. Dust clings to your ankles. Your legs ache from the ride, but something pulls you forward. You duck through the stone passage. The air changes. It grows cool, damp. Your torch flares softly. Its light catches on the cave walls, etched with lines, prayers, names long forgotten. Inside the cave opens. It widens suddenly like lungs taking a breath. It is vast and still and waiting. The priest kneels. He sets down a small jar of oil, lights it. His hands shake. He begins to chant, softly, words older than empires. You sit on the cold floor and wait. Time slips. Minutes melt into hours, or maybe seconds. You can't tell anymore. Your body aches, your hands tremble, but your mind drifts. And slowly, you see something. Not with your eyes, no, but behind them. A face, familiar, yet not. It is yours, and not yours. Older, more lined, more tired. but laughing, not mockingly, not cruel, just gently, like a parent watching a child try to carry the weight of the world. The face says nothing, but it feels like forgiveness. You blink, and it's gone. You're sweating again, but not from the heat. Something inside you has shifted, only slightly, like sand after wind, but enough to feel it. You rise, slowly, wordlessly. Back outside, the light stings your eyes. The guide waits. He hands you a handful of dried figs. You accept them. He asks, "Did the cave speak?" You chew, then shrug. Maybe you say, "Maybe I just listened better." He nods, satisfied. That night back in the palace, you wash your hands in rose water. Your steward hovers nearby, offering clean robes. The court magician steps forward, a scroll of omens in his hand. But you wave them all away. Instead, you sit, alone. You pick up a piece of fresh papyrus, and you write one line, one sentence, clean, simple. Even gods must kneel to silence. You fold the paper carefully, tuck it inside the hollow base of your statue. A secret, for no one, perhaps, only for yourself. Historians will argue about you as they always do. Some will say Pharaoh believed in gods, others will claim he used them as tools. But in that cave, in that still breathing stone, you didn't feel control. You felt small and whole. Later you host a feast, not a grand one. No, just roasted duck, honeyed bread, cool melon slices. You invite the stonemasons, the guards, the cooks. They arrive awkward and confused. They bow too much, speak too little, but they eat, and slowly, they laugh. Someone jokes that onions would make a better currency than gold. Everyone chuckles, even you. The vizier watches from the shadows. He frowns, worried, puzzled. He doesn't understand. He doesn't have to, because you do. And after that day, you begin to change things. Not loudly, not with proclamation, but with quiet hands. You reduce temple taxes. You raise grain rations during the dry season. You visit the sick chambers, without warning. Sometimes you just sit with them, say nothing, hold a hand, and slowly, you begin to sleep better. One morning as you walk through the eastern courtyard, a child rushes past. She drops a single flower at your feet. She doesn't stop, doesn't bow, just leaves it. You don't call after her, you don't pick it up, but your heart folds around that flower like a prayer. You are still Pharaoh, still feared, still powerful, still the voice that speaks law into stone. But something in you knows deeply wordlessly, the desert took something from you and gave something back, something softer, quieter, but no less real. The storm begins just after nightfall, but not in the sky. No thunder, no lightning, no clouds. The storm begins in the palace. Behind thick wooden doors, voices rise, sharp, urgent, tense. Fists slam down on polished tables. Ink splatters across sacred scrolls. Arguments bloom like wildfire. And you sip sweet date wine, quietly watching the shadows argue. Because tonight your priests and generals are at war, not with swords, but with omens. There is a comet in the sky, bright, furious, its tail sharp as a sword, a streak of silver flame across the night's dark skin, and no one knows what it means. The high priest speaks first. He insists it is a blessing, a sacred sign from Ra, a light to honor your reign, divine, glorious, promising eternity. But the general, gruff, scarred, skeptical, shakes his head. He calls it a warning, a curse, a signal of war, of rebellion, of death. You listen to them both and say nothing. You turn instead to the open window where stars blink like ancient eyes, and the comet tears silently through the heavens as if someone took a knife and sliced the sky open. You whisper to no one, "Beautiful, isn't it?" That's when he arrives, the eunuch, silent as moonlight. He kneels, head bowed, voice hushed. There's been a disturbance at the docks. Of course there has. You rise, straighten your robe, and step into the warm, whispering night. Because pharaohs do not sleep when the heavens speak. Down by the river, torches flicker. The guards stand tense, circling a shattered crate and a ring of frightened merchants. The disturbance, it seems, is a shipment of foreign idols. Small statues, strange faces, curved horns, symbols from a distant land. Perhaps the Aegean, perhaps further still. The priest sees them and flinches. Blasphemy, he hisses. These gods are not ours. But you step forward, you kneel beside one. A squat little figure with round owl-like eyes, and a mouth carved too wide as if frozen mid-laughter. You chuckle. Maybe you murmur he just wants a place at the table. The guards shift, uncertain. Some laugh nervously. You wave a hand. Keep them. Study them. No burning tonight, because sometimes, what others fear you find fascinating. Historians will one day debate whether the Egyptians were monotheistic or simply shifted gods like hands in a game of Senate. But tonight you don't care about labels. You care that something new has entered your kingdom, and you want to know why. The next morning you wake from strange dreams. The owl-eyed idol floats behind your eyes. Its grin wider, its gaze sharper. It speaks in riddles, but when you reach for the words, they slip away. You wake to birdsong, to the gentle bleating of goats, to the scent of fresh bread. And for a moment, just a moment, all is peaceful, until the messenger arrives. A village in the south, gone, not destroyed, not burned, just vanished. No signs of struggle, no footprints, no bodies, only empty homes, and on every doorway a symbol drawn in ash. A circle, with 3 dots inside. You frown. That mark. You've seen it before. You whisper, "Fetch the idol." Moments later it is placed before you. And yes, on its base, there it is. The same symbol. You summon your scribe. Send a team to the village, you say. Quietly. No proclamations. I want answers, not panic. And just like that, the comet above becomes more than a spectacle. It becomes a thread. And you are already tangled in it. That night you return to the temple archives. As Pharaoh, you have access to nearly everything. But even you need permission for the oldest scrolls. Tonight you don't ask. You dig through parchment and dust, flick through brittle pages. Whispers of centuries past brush your skin. Until there, a record, 4 dynasties old, a comet, a vanished village, the same symbol, a circle with 3 dots. No explanation, no analysis, only a single line written in red ink, offer salt, never blood. You sit back. The air feels thicker now, more ancient, salt. You glance at your hands, still stained faintly from wine, still steady. You whisper, "What are you?" That evening, as the sun dies into the dunes, you issue a command. Burn the village, completely. The priest protests. But Majesty, what if someone remains? You stare at him. There aren't. He falls silent. You don't enjoy the flames. You watch them. Every house, every wall, every prayer etched in stone consumed, just in case. Later that night you pray. Not to Amun, not to Ra, not even to Bastet. No, you kneel in private, and you whisper whatever you are. Stay curious, but stay away. And somehow, you feel heard. A strange calm settles over you. A quirky fact for those who may listen. In ancient times, Egyptians sometimes imported statues of foreign gods, not to worship them, but to watch them, to keep them near, to keep them contained, just in case. You smile at the thought, because even you, Pharaoh of the 2 lands, descendant of gods, master of storms and grain, even you know this power doesn't always mean fearlessness. Sometimes, true power means feeling afraid, and choosing to rule anyway. The first time you fake your own death, you're 27. It's not as dramatic as it sounds. There's no tomb sealed early, no double lying in your bed, no grand deception carved into stone. It's just a rumor you let grow. You disappear for 3 days, and the court, it spirals. Some say you've ascended to the stars. Others whisper you were poisoned. A few nervously hopeful even suggest revolt. When you return cloaked, quiet, unexpected, you find a mid-argument in the throne room. The vizier turns pale. The general drops his goblet. Majesty, someone croaks, we feared. I know, you say, and sit down. No need to finish. You don't punish them. You don't speak of it again. But after that they speak more carefully. They bow deeper. And most importantly, they wonder. Because power isn't just about being present. Sometimes it's about being a myth. Historians still argue whether pharaohs truly had the godlike control that later generations claimed. But one thing's clear, they curated mystery like gold. And you're learning to love the shadows. A few weeks after your little vanishing act, a strange gift arrives at the palace. A carved wooden box. Inside, no note, no markings, is a single black feather. Ostrich numbered too stiff, too long. The court magician insists it's cursed. The priest demands it be burned. You keep it in your robe. Because mystery has a taste, and you're not done with it yet. That feather becomes a secret symbol for you. When a decision is too complicated, you reach for it. Not to touch, but to remember. Let them wonder. That becomes your motto. And soon you apply it elsewhere. You start holding night courts. Only the moonlight. Only whispers. Only the trusted few allowed to enter. You change your robe colors. Trade white for deepest blue. No announcement. No reason. Let them interpret. You stop giving titles as rewards. Instead, you grant moments. A conversation by the river. A bowl of honeyed figs. A night watching the stars in silence. It drives your advisors mad. But the people, they start telling stories. He appears in dreams, they say. He knows your secrets before you speak. Children leave drawings of you at temple steps, and they never draw your eyes. You like that, because you've learned something crucial. To be feared is useful. To be unseen is powerful. The feather reappears one morning. You find it on your pillow. Same shape, same sheen. Only now, it's wet. With dew or something else you don't ask. You just nod. Later, the guards report that a thief tried to enter the archive vault. They found no body, no footprints, just a black feather in the lock. You add it to your collection. People begin to refer to you by a new name, not in official records, but in hush-toned alley songs. The Feathered King. You don't correct them, because now when you walk the halls, the courtiers step back not from fear, but reverence. You're no longer just a man, you're a story. A strange fact, some tombs show depictions of pharaohs with bird-like masks, hawks, ibis, even vultures. Some say it was symbolic. Others wonder, were they hiding something else? You leave that question unanswered, because the day people think they know you completely is the day they stop needing you. And tonight, as you walk the palace alone, feet silent on polished stone, the moon catches the edge of your robe. It looks like wings, and for just a moment, you feel lighter than bone. The war drums come at dawn, low, rhythmic, inevitable. You're not surprised, not anymore, because when you rule a land of gold grain and God, someone's always trying to take a bite. This time it's the sea people, or maybe it's the desert kings, hard to tell. The scouts argue over names, but the fire in their eyes is the same. They're coming, and they're angry. You don't panic, you drink pomegranate juice, you let the generals posture, and you sharpen your reed pen. Because war to a pharaoh is not blood, it's ink. First you send a ship, then a scroll, a bribe they might call it. But you prefer the term rebalancing tribute. Gold, perfumes, a trained monkey. It works, for 2 days. Then the port city burns. You don't sleep that night. Instead you climb the palace tower, the one no one uses, the one with the cracked stairs and the view that makes you feel like a god. And from there you watch the horizon. Smoke coils upward. The river runs black with silt and memory. You whisper, so, it's time. You've never liked battle. Too messy, too loud, too many surprises. But you're not naive. You've trained, you've bled, you know how to kill, and more importantly, you know how to command. The next morning your army assembles. Not in gleaming rows, not yet, but in clusters half awake, nervous, pretending to be brave. You walk among them. No chariot, no crown, just a staff, just your eyes. They part for you like reeds in the Nile. You stop by a young soldier. His sandals are too big. His hand trembles. You hand him a dried fig. You'll be fine, you say, or you won't. Either way, you're not alone. He laughs, startled, then bows too quickly. You move on. Historians still argue how hands-on pharaohs were in battle. Some say they never left their tent. Others insist they led the charge blade in hand. You lead from the middle. When the first arrow flies, you're already mounted. When the second one hits a standard bearer, you're already shouting. You lose men, too many, but you don't flinch, not when the blood splashes, not when the dust blinds. You ride through it, because war is not glory, it's weight, and tonight you carry it. A quirky detail, Egyptian battle chariots were so light they could be pulled by just two small horses and still outmaneuver a charging war elephant. You prove that true today. Your chariot wheels kick up bone-dry soil. You steer around the chaos. You flank. You circle. And when the enemy turns to flee, you don't chase. You just stop and breathe. Afterward, your physician fusses. A scratch on your shoulder. A bruise on your ribs. You let him work. Silently. Because the real wound is inside. A captain weeps beside a burned tent. You place a hand on his back. Grief is a kind of loyalty, you whisper. Let it stay a while. He nods, and the camp quiets. That night you write nothing. You dream of water, clean, cold, endless. When you wake, you whisper thanks to no one in particular. But just in case, you offer a bit of salt to the wind, because victory like death must be fed. You return to Thebes in silence. Not because the war has crushed your voice, but because the people have already filled the air with songs. Flutes trill in the alleyways, rising like the morning wind between the tall, sun-washed columns. Children chase one another beneath banners dyed in indigo and saffron, their laughter dancing over the stone. Women lean from balconies, tossing lotus petals into the air as your chariot rolls by. Their fingers are stained with oil and ochre. Their faces shimmer with joy and dust and expectation. But you keep your gaze low, not out of shame, not out of fear, but because you've seen the other side of all this. And though the city celebrates, though drums beat and dancers twirl and bells chime from temple towers, you carry something within you now that does not dance. They call you Pharaoh the Unshaken. The murals already being sketched will show you tall and serene, bathed in golden light with the sun, God cradling your name in flame. No artist will paint the cracked leather of your sandals. No scribe will ink the grit still beneath your nails. No poem will speak of how you wake before dawn, still hearing the boy's voice, the one with trembling hands who laughed too hard before bowing too fast. Instead, they bring you gifts. Barley beer in goblets of hammered silver, a panther cub soft-eyed and curious, wrapped in silk, dyed with crushed beetles and moonlight. A vial of perfume said to be made from the tears of mountain spirits, or so the perfumer claims while bowing too deeply. You smile. Of course you smile. But your heart is somewhere else. It's in the dust of a battlefield. It's in the pause before the charge. It's in the moment when silence breaks, not from a cry, but from the absence of one. Later that week, you go to the necropolis, not for ceremony, not for a funeral, just to remember. You walk alone through the city of the dead. Tombs rise around you like miniature palaces, each carved and painted, sealed and blessed, each promising eternity, inscribed in stone and silence. Some are empty, not yet used. Some are full, not yet forgotten. You stop before a modest one, a soldier's tomb. There is no name you recognize, no title chiseled in pride, just the quiet hush of stone and the faint echo of yesterday's incense. You kneel. Let your fingers press into the dust. May your fig tree always bloom, you whisper. An old blessing, the kind your nursemaid used to murmur when you cried over scraped knees and broken toys. You stay for a moment, then you rise. Because grief lingers, but pharaohs must keep moving. Historians still debate whether rulers like you ever showed sorrow behind closed doors. Most tombs speak only of joy, triumph, divine purpose. But if you look closely in the margins, in the faded edges of frescoes, there are smudges. Tiny, deliberate ones, as if someone once cried, then wiped it away before anyone could see. You return to the palace quietly, no fanfare, just your footsteps echoing over sun-warmed stone, your shadow gliding beside the lotus pools. Inside the court is waiting. The priests have questions, the nobles have requests. The vizier has a scroll so long it curls at his feet like a resting cat. You wave them off. Your voice is gentle, but your refusal is firm. Instead, you go to the garden. Because tonight you need lilies more than laws. You need wind more than words. This garden is older than your reign. Some say your grandfather planted it when he still walked without a cane and counted frogs by moonlight for luck. The paths are lined with smooth stones and the air hums with bees and silence. The papyrus reeds whisper their secrets to no one, and the lotus blossoms open slowly like sighs. You lie down on the grass. Let your bones press into the earth. Let your breath slow. Above you, the sky fades from burnished gold to soft ink. One by one, stars appear not in constellations, not in stories, Just scattered brilliance across the dark. Your panther cub finds you, pads through the lily's eyes glowing like twin moons. She curls beside you warm and quiet. You name her Dusk. She purrs like thunder from a distance, like something coming or something gone. That night you do not write law. You do not dictate order or command. You write in your private scroll, the one hidden behind the bricks beneath your bedstone. You write only one line, "Let me be forgotten gently." Strange perhaps for a pharaoh to say that. And yet you've read the old records. You know of those rulers whose names were chiseled out, erased from every monument, their faces scratched from the walls as if they had never breathed. Damnatio memoriae, some scholars will call it, long after your time. But not all forgetting is anger. Some is softness, some is peace. In a few tombs there are cartouches left blank, empty ovals where names should have been. Not out of hatred, not out of shame, but out of mystery. As if the builders whispered, "We may not remember your name, but you mattered." You close your scroll, slide it back into hiding. Let the stone rest against it once more. Tomorrow you will wear the crown again. You will speak with fire and silk. You will be Pharaoh. But tonight, you are just someone lying in a garden, breathing, listening to the wind as it brushes the tall grass and hums between the branches like a song you almost remember. You look up. The stars are still there, still shining, still silent. Dusk stretches, then rests her head on your hand. And you wonder, will they remember this? This quiet night, this breath between battles, this glimpse of a king who is only human. Probably not. But that's all right, because you've learned something in the silence of return, in the weight of command, in the pause between footsteps. Even pharaohs fade. But maybe, so does fear. And maybe, just maybe in the end, that is enough. You wake to the sound of bees, not war horns, not chanting priests, not the distant crackle of fire or the thunder of sandals rushing down stone corridors. Just bees, soft and steady, drifting through the open window like tiny musicians playing a song older than kings. It takes a moment to remember you're alive, truly alive, because the bed beneath you is two soft sheets smelling of rose and rainwater. The sun peeking through the curtains is too kind, too golden, too gentle for a world that once screamed with spears and smoke. And for once no one is waiting outside your door. No messenger kneels in terror. No advisor speaks with eyes full of storm. There is only stillness, only morning, only bees. You stretch slowly. Your bones creak like reeds in the river wind. Your spine sings its quiet protest, but it feels good to move like this. Like a person, not a statue, not a symbol. And then you laugh, quietly but fully, because there's honey on the tray, golden and thick pooled in a small bowl, and flatbread still warm wrapped in cloth. The scent rises like a memory, and someone, probably the cook's daughter, has placed a tiny blue flower beside your cup. A gentian, the kind that grows wild by the palace walls, the kind your mother once pressed between pages of her scrolls. You eat slowly, as if time belongs to you today, as if the world can wait. You sip water scented with mint. You let the light find your shoulders. You listen to the wind as it flutters the curtain. And then quite suddenly you decide that today is not for ruling. Today is for listening. You dress without help. No gold, no crown, no heavy pendants carved with falcons or gods. Just linen worn soft with time loose at the sleeves, frayed at the cuffs. Clothes meant for walking, for breathing. Then you walk out the palace, past the guards who hesitate, then bow, but you shake your head. Down the stone steps, through the garden gate, into the city's waking breath. The market isn't awake yet. Stalls are half raised, fabric still covered. The fishmonger's cart is still empty, but the world stirs. A child yawns in a doorway. A cat darts between pots. And you walk unnoticed. For a time, no one sees you. And when they do, they blink. Their brows furrow. Is it really you? Or just a man who carries something royal in his step? You buy figs, ripe, dark-skinned and bursting with sweetness. The seller tries to kneel, but you lift him up with a smile. You watch a potter shape clay, with hands that move like prayers. Each curve is a hymn, each line a song made of earth. You help a boy chase his goat down a narrow alley. He laughs breathless. You laugh too. And for these quiet hours, you are not Pharaoh. You are not the unshaken. You are not the sun's voice or the lord of the two lands. You are story. You are smile. You are the breath between battles. You are the silence before the drums return. Historians will debate this. They will say pharaohs never walked among their people like this, that their feet never touched dust, that their hands never helped catch goats. But somewhere a broken piece of pottery will be found scratched with a little figure barefoot with the eye of Horus drawn on his shoulder. And someone will wonder, you pause by the river. The Nile glistens wide and blue, slow as sleep. Fishermen wave. You wave back. They grin toothless and sunburnt. And then a sound. A chant. Low. Steady. Not hostile. Not urgent. Just old. Like the kind that moves beneath words. You follow it. Through reeds. Past cattle flicking flies with their tails. Over stones warm from morning sun. Until you reach a shrine, tiny forgotten, tucked beneath acacia trees. There 6 women dance in a circle, their wrists wrapped in shells that click like rain, their hair braided with copper beads, their eyes half closed, lost in rhythm. They do not stop when they see you. One simply opens her arms, and you step into the circle. The world falls away. The dust, the gold, the thrones, all of it disappears. They spin. Their feet kiss the earth. You follow. You do not know the words, but your body learns the rhythm. Your hands move without thought. Your breath finds the space between beats. And for a moment, you are not pharaoh. You are not name or crown. You are motion. You are drum. You are circle. A strange truth. There was once a festival called the Beautiful Feast of the Valley, where the living visited the dead, not with sorrow, but with joy, with food and laughter and dancing. You think of that now, and suddenly you miss your mother, not the queen, not the high priestess, not the woman draped in lapis and incense, but the woman who hummed when brushing your hair, who told you crocodiles were just grumpy fish, who smelled of honey and lavender. You miss her like breath, like shade. You return to the palace by twilight, the sky a soft blaze of copper and peach, sand in your sandals, salt on your lips. The court is in a panic. The vizier stumbles toward you, robes askew, scrolls fluttering in hand. We thought you'd been, he can't finish. I'm fine, you say. Then pause. You breathe. No. I'm better. You hold up a fig, the last one in your pocket. Plump. Perfect. Want one? He blinks, then takes it, and for a few minutes you both stand beneath the torchlight. 2 men, once boys, now tired, chewing in silence, watching the first stars wake above the palace dome. Later that night you write again. Not for law, not for legacy, just for yourself. This time a longer line. I am the fig and the fear, the whisper and the wall. I am not what they carve, I am what they forget. You roll the scroll, seal it with beeswax, slip it behind the bath tiles where only water listens and silence keeps watch. Because some truths are not meant for stone, not meant for marble or mural, not meant for priest or poet, just for mornings like this, soft, sweet, unrecorded, just for fading footprints in the dust of the city as the sun rises and the bees begin again. You're holding a bowl of lapis marbles when the priest enters. He doesn't knock, he never does. Because this is sacred business, and in Egypt sacred things don't wait. Not for kings, not for silence, not even for fear. He bows low, a whisper carried on breath and dust. He says, the omens are restless. You glance at the marbles, blue as river stones, cool against your fingers. They shift and clink like distant thunder waiting to arrive. Then you look back at him, steady, calm. Tell them to be patient. He doesn't laugh. He never does. You sigh and follow him anyway. Down the cool halls, past doors painted with jackals, lions and suns, past columns etched in gold leaf and gods, past the scent of lotus wax salt and the ever-burning oil, into the inner sanctum where time no longer walks but hangs thick like honey on a hot day. The air smells of myrrh and ink, and old paper, and secrets. A cat slinks across your feet, pauses, meows, once then vanishes behind a curtain like smoke. Somewhere someone hums a hymn older than pyramids, older than writing, maybe older than names. You sit, not on a throne, not on a dais, but on the offering stone. Its surface is cool, etched with ash, sweat, blood, hope. The high priest raises both hands. His eyes are heavy with things unsaid. This eclipse, he murmurs, is not like the others. You nod, slowly, because you've seen the sky darken before. Once during a coronation, twice during a funeral. But not like this. 3 nights ago, the moon vanished, and the stars they flickered, like frightened eyes in the dark. The people murmured. The cattle refused to eat. Even the crocodiles stilled. Now they want your answer. They want the Pharaoh's voice to calm the river, to speak with the gods, to make the sky behave. Historians still argue were Egyptian rulers gods in flesh, or only the bridge between dust and divinity. But in moments like these, when the cosmos twists and trembles, you know exactly what you are. You are the tether. You are the silence that steadies the world. You close your eyes, and you remember. A cave, from your childhood, hidden near a quarry. You crawled inside once looking for shade. But what you found was a shrine, etched with warnings. Handprints on the wall, one of them smaller than yours, almost delicate. Above it, a phrase, "Do not forget the breath beneath the Nile." You never knew what it meant, not then. But now it hums inside you. You open your eyes, you rise. The court stiffens, the priests inhale, the scribes glance at each other. You speak clearly, your voice like stone dipped in fire. "Prepare the bark," you say. "We sail at dusk." Gasps echo. One priest drops his tablet. Another bites his lip. No one sails at dusk. Not during an eclipse. Not when the stars go silent. But you will. That evening, your royal boat slides onto the river like a prayer carved in motion. You wear no crown, only the leopard skin sash of the old kings, the ones who ruled before words, before pyramids. The Nile stretches before you, wide, still, black and copper beneath the dying light. Priests chant. Drums thrum like hearts remembering. Torches flicker like nervous thoughts on wind. You stand at the prow, barefoot, breathing, watching, waiting. And then the Nile begins to breathe. It's subtle, but you feel it. In the soles of your feet, in the hush of the wind, in the shift of water against wood. The river shudders, a breeze rises, coils like incense, and deep, deep beneath your boat something stirs. A quirky belief. Some Egyptians once whispered that the Nile had a pulse, that it whispered to the worthy, that it remembered every name, even the secret ones never spoken aloud. Tonight, you believe it. The eclipse passes. A sliver of light returns. Then another. Then more. And the stars, they come back. The people cheer from the banks. Torches rise. Children sing. The drums shift from fear to joy. But you kneel. Right there on the deck. You press both palms to the wood. Warm now. Alive. And you whisper, "Thank you." Because tonight you have remembered something terrifying and beautiful. You are not the god. You are the guest. Back in Thebes, a child runs to you, barefoot laughing. She holds out a lotus white and wide as a smile. "It's for the darkness," she says, "so it remembers it's still loved." You take it, gently, as if it were fire and memory. You smile, and place it behind your ear. That night you sleep dreamless, but peaceful, deep, anchored. Because some shadows, they don't need to be feared. They just need to be seen. The rains come late that year. The farmers wait, eyes turned toward the horizon. Fields, cracked like tired hands that have worked too long without rest. In the palace, scrolls begin to pile, one on top of another. Drought warnings, reports on grain reserves, letters from temple's priests claiming the gods demand more incense, as if a little perfume could convince the sky to cry. You sit in the cool chamber near the tall columns. The air is still. Dust motes float like tiny ghosts, and you listen to your advisors argue. One says dig deeper canals, another says ration the wheat. A third, eyes wild, suggests sacrificing a bull, or 5, or more. You sigh, because beneath all their words, beneath the scrolls and the incense and the panic, there is one truth they don't speak aloud. If the river doesn't rise soon, your people will starve. It's not glamorous, this part of ruling. No gold, no feasts, no songs, just counting sacks of lentils. and listening to the sound of hunger pressing softly slowly against the palace walls. You step outside. The sky above is flat, empty, merciless. Even the birds seem to have given up. So, you go where no one expects. Not to the temples, not to the grain house, not to the throne. You go to the scribe's school. It's a quiet chamber beside the granary, small, unassuming. There are a group of boys sit on stone benches, scratching spells, taxes and poems onto broken pieces of pottery. When you enter, they freeze, hands still, breath held. You nod gently. Keep writing, you say. Don't let the drought steal your voices. A strange fact, perhaps, but even in crisis, ancient Egypt kept its schools open. Because words were sacred. Words could shape the world, like bricks, like magic, like seeds. You kneel beside one boy. He's small, freckled, serious, and he's writing the same line over and over again. The ink smudged his hand sore. The Nile is a promise. You smile. Take the stylus from his fingers just for a moment, and beneath his line you write, even broken promises leave seeds. He stares, then beams. You leave them with dates, goat cheese, and enough ink to last a season. And then you do something scandalous. You walk, alone, to the workers' village. No chariot, no guards, just you and the silence of the sand. When you arrive, the men pause mid-swing of pickaxes. Their wives clutch their infants tighter. Everyone stares. You raise your hands. I'm not here to command, you say. I'm here to learn, and you do. You sit, you listen. They tell you of cracked feet, of empty wells, of dreams that taste like dust. You promise nothing, because in drought promises are dangerous. But you help carry a water jar. You hold a crying baby. You eat the hard bread they offer. You ask what they dream of. One says rain, another says figs. A third older than the rest says silence, and you nod, because you understand. That night you return to the palace at dusk, tired, but not the tired of war, not the tired of ceremony. This is the kind of tired that roots deep. You climb to the roof, sit with your feet dangling over the edge. Below the city flickers, soft fires, quiet songs, dust curling in the last light. Historians still argue, you know. Did pharaohs understand the suffering of the people? Did they feel it? Did they care? Some say no, that they ruled from ivory towers too far removed to notice the cracks in clay bowls. But others believe that it was in these quiet moments, the ones no scribe ever wrote down, that kingship truly lived. You sip wine, but it tastes thin, empty. You sigh, and whisper toward the horizon, "Come home, Nile, we miss you." Then, a breeze, cool, carrying a scent not of incense, but of something distant, something electric, raw, wild, thunder. You stand, heart caught between breath and bone, and you laugh, loud, free, because sometimes, just sometimes, the gods really do answer, even if they're late. That night, the rain comes, not gently, not politely, but in a rush like joy that's waited too long. Heavy, joyful, unapologetic. In the streets, people pour out of their homes. They dance, barefoot, grateful. Priests chant gratitude until their voices crack. Children fill jars with storm water and pretend they've caught the sky. And you stand beneath it all, soaked, laughing, alive. A little girl tugs your robe. Her eyes wide, her smile wider. "Did you summon it?" she asks. You kneel, raindrops dripping from your lashes. Maybe you whisper, or maybe it was you. She grins, then runs off into the storm. You stay, just a little longer, head tilted up, face full of rain. And for the first time in weeks, you don't feel responsible. You just feel grateful. The scarab lands on your hand without asking. Tiny, shiny as a jewel, buzzing with secrets. You hold still and watch. Its legs move like strokes of ink. Its wings twitch as if whispering something only it understands. Then without warning, it takes off, spiraling upward toward the sky. A good omen perhaps, or maybe just a bug. You smile anyway, because today is a special day. Today, the sculptors unveiled a tomb. Your tomb, the final home you'll never leave. You walk through the royal quarry, stone dust clinging to your sandals, sun warming the back of your neck. You trail your fingers along cool limestone, each slab etched with red lines with notations from men who speak in symbols and chips and flakes of stone. Your architect greets you bowing so deeply it's nearly a prayer. It's ready, he says softly. The eternal house. You arch an eyebrow. Let's see it. He leads you into a chamber carved straight from the mountain, a place where the stone is smooth as eggshell, where the air is still and the ceiling above is painted with stars. There it stands, the sarcophagus, not yet occupied, but ready. A stone mirror of your body arms, crossed eyes closed in permanent peace. Gold bands curl across the lid. Symbols of life power and protection dance along the sides. You step forward. You reach out. You trace the carvings slowly, deliberately. There a falcon facing the wrong way, and there a reed hieroglyph, missing entirely. You say nothing, because imperfection is honest. Historians still argue, did pharaohs design their own tombs or leave it to the priests? But this feels personal. You look up at the ceiling, at the stars someone painted to match the sky. At a skylight, you say dryly, I'd like a view. The architect's face drains of color. You laugh. Only joking, you say. Seal it tight. Later, when the heat of the afternoon wraps the world in gold, you walk to the Valley of Kings, the place where rulers sleep. You stroll among the tombs like old friends. Some are cracked open, unfinished, their stories interrupted. Some are sealed tight, swallowed by time. You stop before one, a noble long forgotten. Inside they buried him with a board game, and 7 jars of honey. A good death, you murmur. A curious tradition, many were buried with small statues, ushabtis. Little servants carved to work for them in the afterlife. One tomb held over 400. You've never liked that idea. You don't want servants in eternity. You don't want labor. You don't want control. You want peace. You want quiet. You want stillness. As the sun begins to bleed orange across the stone, you return to the palace. The scribes await you with fresh parchment. They've written a new title, eager to elevate you again. Son of Ra, breath of the horizon, keeper of balance. You nod politely, and then, in your private journal, you scribble a different truth. Still figuring it out. That night you hold court, but not in the throne room, not beneath gilded ceilings. You sit outside, on a simple bench. Your advisors gather at your feet, cross-legged in the courtyard dust. You look up at the stars, and then you ask them, what's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen? The vizier pauses, then says, a comet streaking across the sky. The general chuckles. A falcon hunt at dawn, he says, his voice full of memory. The scribe smiles softly. Ink, he says. Fresh ink on papyrus. And you remember. You feel it again, the tickle of tiny legs, the gleam of sunlight on shell. You say a scarab on my hand. They all smile, because they know. The war king is now a poet king. You end the night with a slow walk, one last round through the palace halls. Your fingertips glide over tapestries. Your footsteps echo like gentle drums. In the nursery, you find your granddaughter curled in sleep, her arms wrapped around a wooden cat, her breath steady. You lean down, kiss her brow. May your dreams be strange, you whisper. It means your soul is paying attention. Then, you return to your own chamber. The linen sheets are cool. The room is still. You lie back. Exhale. Close your eyes. Not to sleep, but to rest. Because eternity is just a longer version of now. And somewhere a scarab buzzes beneath the moon. You wake before the sun. Not because of dreams, but because of stillness. The kind of hush that wraps the world just before it turns. You rise, not quickly, not slowly, just as you are. Your bones creak, but not in protest. Your breath is long, deep. The air smells of figs and ash, and the faint trace of lotus incense still lingering from the night. Today is your final morning, not because someone told you so, not because the stars gave you a sign, but because you feel it, like a song ending, like a tide pulling quietly back into the sea. You bathe in silence, wash each part of yourself with purpose, then dress in white linen. No gold, no fanfare, no priest at your side, just you, and the rhythm of your own footsteps. You walk to the rooftop. The city lies below like a loyal animal still dreaming. The Nile glistens half-veiled in mist. Birds turn gentle loops above your head. You sit on the ledge, feel the morning's first breeze, and you whisper, "I'm ready." Later they will find you there, head tilted, eyes open, smiling. A strange and quiet ending, but one that fits. There's a belief that the car your spirit leaves the body like a bird, and it returns from time to time to visit the places it loved most. That's why they leave food, and flowers, and letters. You always liked that idea. You always hoped they'd remember the laughter more than the wars. The temple bells begin to chime in the distance. Boats stir softly along the riverbanks. Someone weeps, someone sings. By sunset, the embalming will begin. You know the steps, the oils, the amulets, the prayers whispered behind linen, the wrapping not too tight, not too loose. You oversaw it all, planned it yourself. Your tomb is ready. You've seen it, felt its cool air, approved every carving, every symbol. The Book of the Dead waits inside, its pages inked with riddles, with promises, with maps, with warnings. It will guide you through the 12 gates, each guarded by beasts, each waiting with questions. Some say that journey is metaphor, others insist it's real. But truth doesn't matter anymore, because now you will walk it yourself. You've left behind scrolls, poems, tucked under floor tiles, a joke scratched beneath the throne, a final message etched inside your ring only visible in moonlight. Legacy is a strange thing. You can't control it. You can only seed it. 100 years from now, someone may call you a tyrant, another might call you a prophet, and yet another might simply say he once held a scarab and smiled, and that's enough. The priests begin their rituals, the people bring flowers, some whisper prayers, others clap their hands to chase away sorrow. You had asked for this, a joyful funeral, because life was hard, but also soft, sweet, and sacred. You once told your granddaughter everything ends, but endings are just new songs waiting for listeners. And now you fade, like music, like mist, like memory slipping between reeds. Wind crosses the valley. It carries the scent of figs. A fruit falls quietly from the tree near your tomb. Somewhere a child whispers, "Did you hear that no one else does?" But you do. You hear it all, because the afterlife is not silence, it is echo, and you are still humming. Wind down the final 300 words. And so the story closes, not with a roar, but with a breath. The pharaoh, once a warlord, once a boy, once a whisper in the desert sand, now rests. Not in fear, not in regret, but in peace. You lie back now too, wherever you are. Let your limbs soften. Let the hum of the fan or the hush of distant wind be your lullaby. The ancient world always seems so far away, doesn't it? Its gods with animal faces, its tombs, its scrolls, its golden masks. But it's not far. It's here in the way we dream, in the way we grieve, in the way we reach out for something when the sky goes dark. Tonight you walked beside kings. You wore linen robes. You watched the Nile breathe. And now, it's your turn to rest. The river still flows. The stars still listen. The scarabs still fly. And if you listen, truly listen, you might still hear that pharaoh laugh. Somewhere beneath the sand, holding a fig in one hand, writing poems with the other. Thank you for being here. Now, slow your breath. Sink deeper into the night. You are safe. You are seen. And you are never too far from wonder. Sweet dreams, my friend. The story is over. But you are just beginning. End of script. Sweet dreams.